I hope this is the right spot for you to listen about the indigenous people. Now we are very thankful because this event
Recording in progress.
Is a collaboration between Kemitraan or Partnership for Governance Reform, and then we have people from Samdhana Institute and also from AIPP, Asia Indigenous Peoples Pact Foundation. This is a joint collaboration, so we have several speakers already here. 2 of them and 3 of them are offline, are online. Sorry. So thank you. I would like to talk about. Ada yang online, maaf. I'm sorry. I have 5 speakers here today. Sounds like repeating, yeah. I'm sorry. Maybe I should sign now. Today we have a few speakers already coming offline and online. And to make sure that you are in the right place, we will discussing about indigenous people. We are lucky because our workshop today has several speakers from different countries. We have from Indonesia, and then we have represent from Malaysia. We have also from Myanmar, Cambodia, and also Philippines. So without taking much time further, probably I will introduce our first speakers. It's Mr. Frederick Wilson from AIPP, Asia Indigenous People Pact. So Mr. Frederick is an indigenous Dusun Putih from Sabah, Malaysia, and he has worked for over 10 years with indigenous peoples in Malaysia, especially with his own community at the Sabah state level. And he spent 12 months working with the Assistant Minister for Law and Native Affairs of Sabah State. Frederick is currently serving for indigenous peoples in Asia in the capacity of Human Rights Campaign and Policy Advocacy Program Officer. Since joining the organization in 2019, he is also steering committee of the Zero Tolerance Initiative Coalition, which is looking for the in business and human rights issues. He will be talking about the human rights situation in Asia region and particularly the highlight of the issue around Southeast Asia by the indigenous people. Frederick will also provide insight of free, prior, informed, and consent or FPIC to the rights of indigenous people. Mr. Frederick, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Widya. Greetings to everyone. Kopi Senangan in my mother tongue, Dusun Indigenous Putih. So, yeah. Really can treasure the ongoing summit, which is today is already ongoing, all our member states. However, I hope in somehow we can at least to consolidate our efforts and also strategic, right? So now I will give you some insight on Southeast Asia, and then narrow down to the other speakers as well presenting here. I have 8 points here. I want to say all of you now. I want to talk upon the background briefly, and I just touch upon the free, prior, informed, and consent to the right of indigenous peoples. Later on, the IP Jardin network that we have set up, and what is the context in human rights violations, and what is the response mostly we have observed from the states, the government, and others, and some of the lesson learned, challenges, as well as what now, what we have seen, and I will end up with the recommendation. So yeah, next. So just to introduce our organization, we are based in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Of course, we are established since 1992. This is originally registered with the Indigenous Peoples Movement, and it's together with member organization to promote and defending the rights of indigenous peoples. We are about 46 members within 14 countries in Asia, 12 country level of formation. Next. And also you see these are the members that we engage with, and also we kind of call like 4 sub-regional. One is in the South Asia. This is including the Bangladesh, India, Nepal, also Northeast India, and in the Mekong region we have Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. And Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Timor-Leste, and East Asia, Japan, Taiwan, / China. But of course, I will this presentation I will just narrow down to the Southeast Asia engagement. Next. So now I will share with you the free, prior, informed, and consent fundamentals. For us, this is one of the bigger guideline or fundamental whenever we want to environment, also conservation, and others in the territory of indigenous peoples. Next. And we also observe some of the good practices. Since I'm from Malaysia, so I would like to give you some spotlight where some of the best practices that happening in my country, Malaysia. For example, the self-determination in terms of decision-making and consent. For us, indigenous peoples, they are part and parcel of indigenous people way of life. APIC is not just in the book, but it's also part of the life. And just an example, we call it the monoduk, fruits trees, or monohuku. This is when we ask the permission to the community, as well as the spirits or guardianship in the area, we need to do this kind of activity. This is where we can engage the surrounding. And we also call the magambi. This is the priestess will ask permission from the spirits. Whenever I say spirits, it's all living things around us. We have seen and unseen, but we can feel it. And we also embedded this kind of FPIC in the indigenous community protocol. This is one of the initiatives that we have started with in the Sabah state, one of our state. And now one of the success story out of this FPIC is that after several advocacy work, the government of Sabah state, they recognize the Tagal system, or where we can protect the riverine or all fishery in the river. And then this is linked to the traditional knowledge, how we can practice, conserve them, and how we can use them, not only just to protect, not to harvest them, but there's a certain time, for example, like after 2 years, and then everyone can join in solidarity. Some events, they can harvest together, but in certain size or even certain traditional fishing nets, for example. This kind of practice that we implement. And just to flag here, whenever we talk about free, prior, informed, and consent, this is one of the process and continuous process. But most oftenly, we observe member state like ASEAN member states, Southeast Asian member state, they only reported that we already engage with the community. But when we ask what kind of engagement, mostly the engagement is one-time consultation. They call all many kind of community, indigenous people in one area, and then they do one time of announcement. This kind of project we will implement. But there is no initial information, or there is no genuine inclusion or participation of the indigenous people in different level. And sometimes this is just only happening due to the implementation of environment impact assessment or social impact assessment. And oftenly